Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Christian Buddy Podcast. In today's episode, we are talking with an online entrepreneur. We're going to deep dive into such questions around development of his application and also his podcast. His name is Cory. He's from the United States. And this episode is brought to you by the goodness of your own heart. Buy some in stores today. Buy some in all your local retailers. With that said, I'm sending you peace and strength. Make today count. Let's go. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm with Cory. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Not a problem. So I thought I would just jump straight into the meat of the podcast and tell us. Here we go. Tell us the audience a bit about your app and what you're about at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically we are a full suite software tool for personal trainers. So we basically allow them to build programs, manage clients, track progress, billing, messaging, like pretty much anything they need for their business. So we started off as a marketplace for fitness programs several years ago, pivoted, and now we are, like I said, full suite for them to work with their clients and run their business. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm going to go into a bit of interview mode now, and I've got a few questions lined up. So how much does it cost to build an app?
That is a great question. And there isn't really an answer for that. So basically, these days, and if I could go back in time, I could build it for like a couple grand. There's a ton of like quick, easy to use software builders that can kind of like streamline an app for you. When I first started, I feel like I'm sounding old when I say that. When I started with apps, back in my day when apps were flying around off the shelves. I mean, you could have built an app for like, 10 to 15K, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I first had the idea. It would have been a pretty crappy app, but like that's known as an MVP, minimum viable product, that first app coming out. So I didn't go that route. I should have. And I always advise founders and startup, entrepreneurs to do that. Go with an MVP. Don't try and build everything. I tried to build everything. I brought on a really bad, I'm not trying to be rude, but like a team that was not really a team. That's kind of a couple guys thrown together that were doing like small apps for a media company. I tried to get them to build this giant app for me. I ended up spending like 40 to 50K and ultimately just kind of threw it in the garbage at the end of everything. So we had to kind of just get a new team, rebuild everything. Apps are expensive altogether over these 6 years. We're talking like multiple different app versions. Like I had my original marketplace and then a new company with version 2, 3, 4, and then all this software. We've probably spent around like 500, 600K. Wow. Just kind of all together. I mean, that's whole journey. That's like including, salaries for other employees and that kind of stuff. But it's super expensive though, for sure. But you can get away with it for like 10, 15K if you really want to. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess 10, 15K, what's the quality of the app going to be like? I mean, I guess I'm only assuming that the more money you put in is the higher quality you're going to be getting out. So that's all I can.
So at a certain base, like let's call it like 5K, the quality can be really high. It's just a matter of how many features you want. So the problem when I first started, especially, was that if I go back in time, I would have built like like one of the 7-minute workout apps where it's like, there's like 3 things it does it super well. And that's all you need. You're not expecting anything else. You have a workout, there's a timer, you're done. I was trying to build like profiles and social media and like an inbox and like the ability to DM other people and like have a social media wall. And it was just stupid. Like there was no point. Even our app from 2 years ago, that was like, the final version of our marketplace app before we pivoted to this new SaaS. I was still trying to build the social feeds and the inbox, and it was like costing us thousands and thousands of dollars of our dev team and all this design hours. And it was like, ultimately we just pulled the plug on it because you don't need those features. So when you're building an app for 10 or 15K, if it does a couple things, it can be a beautiful, really easy to use app and do a great job. So it all really depends on how many features do you want and how complicated are those features.
Yeah, right. Okay. And for people that maybe want to dabble into making an app, how hard is it to make an app?
So also the same answer kind of. So,
Yeah.
especially nowadays, I'm not going to recommend any of them because I've never used them. And I've heard like horror stories and great stories at the same time, but there's a ton of websites where you can just Google make an app for like $3,000 or whatever, and they can make an app for you. It's not going to be custom. It's not going to have like any actual like real coding behind it besides like what they've already built for everyone else. But it'll do the job. So like, that'll be really easy. When it comes to actually building out an app, if you're not a developer yourself, it's super difficult. Just because like I'm going through all these like memories in my head now, but like there's just so many shocking points that you'll hit, like where in my mind it should be super simple to do like a really quick task, but like sometimes in coding, like one task can trigger like this another page to shut down, and then all of a sudden the website isn't working, and it's like you have to figure out why they didn't work, and then you've wasted an entire day of development money, and that cost you like $1,000 for that day. So it's like, I mean, there's just so many things that go into it. So it's a really complicated process, and I would never tell anyone to go just build an app unless like they're motivated and like are able to like solve problems and work with a team.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a straightforward journey. And
Nope, not at all.
and you mentioned that you're moving towards a SaaS. Now, do you mind, for people that don't know what a SaaS is, do you mind expanding on that? And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So basically, and so to clarify, we already are a SaaS. So we pivoted it to a SaaS last year.
Okay.
So we were a marketplace. So essentially the first platform was the first 4 years of my journey. Wasted a lot of time, didn't make a lot of money on that. But basically what I wanted to do was create a marketplace where personal trainers could take their fitness programs and then sell them in an app. And then random people could go in and buy them, filter through it. I want to do bodybuilding 30 minutes a day. And I'm an advanced lifter. And then you could find programs based on your needs. It was really cool. Trainers loved it, but like they didn't love it enough to actually spend every day on it. And it wasn't making them a lot of money. And 90% of their business or 99% of their business is working with their actual clients. So we decided to scrap that. It was more of like a fun idea that cost $100,000, unfortunately. But yeah, so we're a SaaS now. So SaaS stands for software as a service.
Yeah.
So everyone listening to this uses a SaaS. I mean, pretty much anytime you pay for a software, like if you paid for Slack, or if you paid for Gmail or whatever email client you use, like anytime you're paying for a software, especially like on a monthly recurring basis, that's going to be a SaaS software.
Right.
So we're a SaaS for trainers, aka they pay us monthly to manage their clientele. You could also call us a CRM, aka client relationships management tool. So you can kind of call us both, I guess, but I usually refer to us as a SaaS. But yeah, that's what we are now. Yeah.
And I want to dig further into that. Why did you make the pivot for?
Yeah, so the first one just wasn't really making us a lot of money. And the main thing with that is that, like I said before, it wasn't our trainers like go-to bread and butter. Like it was like, this is cool that they can sell a program, but it's like, example, it's like a garage sale versus like running a store that sells stuff. It's like you have a garage sale every once in a while, like you might sell a program, you might sell an item at this garage sale, but like if you run a store, that's your job. Like you're running the store.
Okay.
So it was more of like a side hustle thing for our trainers. I thought it was going to be way bigger than it was, and it just wasn't. And it wasn't necessarily a bad app. It was an awesome app, and we sold a couple of grand worth of, like, probably sold like 2,000 programs, like 500 programs. But we just had so many competitors. And what I didn't realize at the time was that we had built a really awesome platform, but the end product was still similar to what that Nike has or something like that. So like Nike has a Nike at home app where you can get workouts. And so even though their app is just like, here's 20 workouts, like it's really cleanly designed, but like that's it. And ours is, here's 500 workouts. You can choose any of them. They're filtered by trainers from all around the world. That's all really cool. But at the end of the day, you're still getting a workout. So like, it's hard to compete with Nike when your end product at the end of the day, after all the filtering, is still a workout app. So it was that combined with no one really cared about the social. We could have expanded on the social. We didn't have like Find My Friends and that kind of stuff, which was like obviously would be super important to have. We just didn't have it in the budget to keep adding more and more to the social. So we decided to finally just pull it. But ultimately why we switched after all that stuff is that we saw the competitors in our SaaS training space where they weren't replying to customer service emails. They were really slow and stagnant. They weren't updating. They weren't adding new features. So we were like, I looked at what they were doing and I was like, I know for a fact I could do this better. And our trainers are complaining on a day-to-day basis that they hate the software they have to use and they wish that WeStrive was doing that software. So I was like, screw it, we're just going to do that. So that was kind of the ultimate pivot after all those years, but that's what we did.
Yeah, right. Okay. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. And it's interesting because I was speaking to a lady on the podcast, and she's actually developing a dating app. There's a bit of a plug there. I'm plugging my own episode there, but what I learned from talking with her is that she mentioned that doing your research, your market research before, and validating your idea before you jump in is such a crucial part. I guess what I'm trying to say is, what was the market research that you performed, and how did that take place, I guess?
So I did a lot of market research. And so again, like what's hard to say is that, because I don't want to sound like I just launched this app and spent all my money, all my investors' money, and just like for the first version, just didn't like cluelessly, because I feel like I did a lot of research. I interviewed hundreds of trainers. I was always hopping on calls. I still do that to this day.
Yeah.
I've had 3 calls today with trainers. So, and as we grow, I'm going to keep doing that, keep getting involved with my target market. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like no matter what you do, like sometimes you like, no matter how much research you do, sometimes the product might not reflect your data. Like you can only do, like it's a research for a reason. It's not answers, it's more research. So like I was interviewing these trainers and they were all saying how cool this would be. And they have all these programs and they would love to be able to sell them. But ultimately, like what they really wanted was a better platform to manage their current business. And then they wanted to be able to find more clients. So we occasionally get them a new client, but it was mostly about the sales of the program. So like, had it been a platform that was just getting them all these clients, they would have loved it and paid any amount for it. But so I think a lot of the research that I did, even though I tried super hard to not do this, I think I was a little bit biased on the answers that I was getting. So maybe, and I can't reflect because it was so long ago, but like maybe in the interviews, I would just kind of push them towards saying like, of course I want to sell my programs. Like, if you tell anyone, hey, do you want to make more money? They're going to say yes. So it's a matter of like, if I could go back, I would have worded it differently. And I would have asked them like, how valuable is this to you based on, if you could choose one of these platforms, which one would you choose, or something like that. And then on top of that, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have done any of the stuff I did in the beginning. But what I would have done is I would have validated my idea, kind of like I mentioned, the whole 7-minute workout app. If I had validated the idea and just built, because what was another thing that we did that was a huge waste of money is there were all these trainers in the platform and early on, instead of just like, I did this early on, but then in the future I didn't do this, but we built it so that they could build the programs in the platform too. What I should have done is I should have taken their programs and continued to be the one building them, because we had to build out this whole infrastructure that allowed them to basically build these plans when it should have just been me. And it was just a huge waste of money. And if I had just tested the app like a 7-minute workout concept with like 100 programs, made them $5 a piece, said screw it, and just like let the app grow that way, would have been so much more beneficial than building out 1,000 features and social media and all that crap that was like just not necessary. So I think just validate your idea, the core idea, the only thing that you need, and then kind of grow it from there.
Okay, so having said that, would you say that, I guess if you were to start again, you would put more emphasis on, the core idea as opposed to all these other secondary features?
Yeah. So if I could go back to 2015 when I first had the idea, I mean, I had to build a website and learn how to like code and learn how to work with developers and like all that stuff. But what I would do is I would build a marketplace, but it would be like 50 programs. There would be no social media. There would be no other trainers coming in and like adding their own stuff. It would just be me contacting trainers like I did, getting their programs, adding them myself, and then just being like, hey, we're called the 50 program app. It's $1 a month and you have access to 50 full length plans. and I would just split like 10% commission with the trainers per month and pay them out that way. And I think people would actually download that app. If I paid $1 a month and I had unlimited workouts from certified trainers, that'd be awesome.
Right, I'm just going to write that down.
Exactly. It would probably be more successful than the current app that I have not this current app, sorry, the current app that we launched 2 years ago as the marketplace. Because we just tried to add all these things and it was just so complicated. And the more things you add, the more bugs you get. So like, oh, our social media feed is glitching out today. And it's just like, actually, the worst part about the social feed is that it was always empty because no one really used it. Like trainers use it, but like very rarely. Right. But when you signed up, the first thing you'd see was the social media feed. So you sign up for this app, you download it, sign up, which is really hard to get people to do that in the first place. And then they land on it. And instead of seeing our beautiful workout builder and our marketplace, they see the social feed and it's just empty. And there's no one posting. So immediately you go, well, this is stupid. Like, and then there's no connect to friends. There's no, oh, my friend added me. It's just kind of like, you just can find users in the app. It's just stupid. So
yeah, actually on the back of that, I actually downloaded the app WeStrive. I downloaded the app and the first thing that what you're saying, I saw like an admin post from 2 years ago and I'm like, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So
we're WeStrive. So that exactly. So we're WeStrive for clients now. The only reason we haven't deleted the WeStrive app yet itself is because we still have some trainers that use it for messaging in their phone. We're in like a weird phase where we relaunched 2 months ago. The website updated. We have a brand new app for clients. So the trainers use the website to work with their clients and the clients use the app. But we used to have a trainer side of the app too, that allowed them to do a couple of things like manage clients a little bit, like kind of, messaging, that kind of stuff. And we're currently in the process of rebuilding that side of it. So we couldn't just completely relaunch WeStrive for clients as just WeStrive, because then it would have booted all of our trainers off the mobile app and pissed them off. Yeah. So we have to have both apps for the time being. And then once we finish the WeStrive trainer side of it, we'll just relaunch as WeStrive again. So it's kind of a confusing like 3 months and we kind of have to do it. But we should have that new trainer app up and running in about like a month and a half. So then we'll kind of just be one app again. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The social media feed. It's just stupid. So yeah.
I feel like you're building this airplane as you're in the sky. Like you're
that's just 100%. And I mean, because you're going, and I have like Figma and Asana boards of like these giant projects we want to do. But then while you're building these giant projects, you have all these mini projects that keep popping up. Like I've already had 2 calls today with trainers that are like, I wish I could assign my clients 3 programs in one day and be able to break up the day. And I'm like, okay, I guess we'll figure out how to build that. And then other trainers like, I wish my clients, because we already link up with a nutrition app, they're like, I wish they could manually add their nutrition data in the app on top of being able to sync up with a nutrition app. And I'm just like, okay, we'll figure that out too. And while we're doing that, we're working on building our own nutrition software too. So it's like, you have to figure out how to prioritize these giant goals and not delay them too long, but also satisfy your current customers as you're growing to get to those goals. So that's airplane analogy is 100% spot on.
And with the SaaS, what's I'm just assuming that the main income model is a subscription, is the subscription base. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So basically they pay us on a monthly basis based on how many clients they have. So, if you have like 5 clients at $17 a month, 15 clients, $35 a month. And then we take a small percentage of their sales. So we have a billing platform as well. So if they want to, from their homepage, they can connect to Stripe. And then if they want to send any invoices to their clients, they can do that through us. So we take like a little less than 1% of those sales too. So that isn't our primary business model, or it never will be, but it's not even a big business model yet, because we're still like working on expanding Stripe into Australia, Canada, UK. It's currently just US. So that's on our agenda for next week actually to do that. But yeah, so those are the 2 main business models, and we have a lot more coming out as we expand in the future.
Wow. Cool. All right. And I wanted to kind of direct the conversation into a different topic, which is your podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You are a owner of a podcast, and I noticed that you had you initially began with a different name, and now you've changed the name of the podcast. And yeah, what do you want to run the story behind just starting that podcast? And
Yeah, so basically, it all started about 2.5 years ago. I was at this. I was speaking at an event in Fort Worth, and this guy was like, "I have a podcast," and I was talking to the guy, and he just didn't seem very interesting. And I had always thought about making a podcast, and I was just like, I could do such a
I could
better
do this better than
podcast
you.
than this. Yeah, I was like, screw it. So I literally went home that week and started like planning it. And then that winter, so winter of 2018, that would be I just started working on the podcast, started having some interviews. I interviewed some I was like, if I can get some really awesome people, like 5 or 6 people out the gate, then I can use that material, build a website to expand on from that. So I interviewed my neighbor from my hometown, which actually was the guy that started the Gold's Gym Challenge, which if you're not familiar, like Gold's Gym, obviously you know what that is, but they have a challenge every year. It's called the Gold's Gym Challenge. It was kind of like the start. Well, it's not the first ever weight loss competition, but it was kind of the start of like a national like trend of like every gym does that now. They'll have like worldwide rankings and stuff. And he was actually the one that started it and built that process for all of the Gold's gyms around the world. And so it was cool interviewing him. I interviewed the VP of the NFL through a random DM. That was pretty cool. And a bunch of other people. It was awesome. It kind of grew from there, but we were known as the We Strive podcast. But it was not fitness related at all. I was strictly using it to, one, because I loved it, but two, because I wanted to grow, my network through We Strive, and people had to go to the We Strive website to go to the podcast. So I was getting more viewers that way.
Okay.
But ultimately, after about 1.5 years of doing that, I was like, okay, this has nothing to do with fitness. We can't keep calling ourselves We Strive and then not having any fitness content. And it's through the website. And it's just like, what does this even mean? So we decided to switch, and I added a co-host on, my good buddy who runs a company as well, Farhaj Mayan. So we called it Building Fires, and we did about 20 episodes together. We're currently on pause. I haven't done an episode since January. I was relaunching the company, and I was doing most of the work for the podcast. Like, he's busy too. So it was just like not the right time for us. So I did that for about 2 years. We have like 95 episodes or something like
Wow.
that. So it was lots of stuff.
Okay. And just touching on that subject of the podcast, if someone's watching this, how do they make their podcast stand out?
Yeah. I mean,
generic question.
That's a good question. I think the number one thing that I noticed a lot of podcasts didn't do that I did really early on was I built a website just for my podcast, and then I broke down every episode. So I have links and a quick bio, or at least like a title and a picture of every single person that I've interviewed. And so I thought it was cool that you could kind of go through the catalog of people. Had I had more time, I would have categorized it like SaaS founders, CRM founders, investors, that kind of stuff. I didn't have the time, but building that out and giving your followers or your listeners a way to like actually find the people and not just be like, hey, this is my podcast, but actually see the people and then filter through them is a cool way to do it. So that was what I did really early on. Another thing was, kind of getting that. I think those first episodes are really crucial, because if you get enough kind of clout and not celebrity, but like legitimate people on early, then you can use those on your website to reach out to bigger people and just say, hey, I'd love to have you on. Like, here's who I've already interviewed. And they'll go, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I would love to be on the podcast. So I think those are the two main things, is kind of starting out the gate with some good interviews and then building out that solid website.
Okay. I guess a bit of experience, a bit of reflecting on my journey. I'm up to this is episode 21 at the moment.
Nice.
So
there you go.
yeah.
Nice.
So just chugging along, and I'm just trying to just get my craft together. I've invested in the equipment here and the camera and everything. So
yeah, I got the little blue Yeti here.
Oh,
with the sticker there too. Boom. Always repping.
Awesome. Cool. And how do podcasts make money?
Yeah, I mean, I probably made a couple $100 in the history of it. Again, I'm not full time, so it's like I could have done a lot. I could have applied all my We Strive SEO and website and like networking skills to the podcast, but I just don't have the time. So like To be frank, like most podcasts don't make money. I have a buddy that has a podcast that they do it full time, and they have the coolest people on. They make a lot of money and they're happy. But it's not typically the case. It just kind of, you just have to build that audience and keep growing it. And cool thing with stuff like Anchor.fm is you can start getting sponsored posts immediately. I don't recommend it right away because it's too much. To add out the back, but like it's, you definitely can do it. And I definitely did it myself early on, but you kind of have to weigh, like, is it worth making like $5 this episode maybe to disrupt my listeners, or does it make me sound more legit because I have a sponsor? Like, I don't really know. I don't know how to look at it, but that's one way to make it early on. And then you can also get lucky and have like an actual person like sponsor you or something like that, or an actual company outside of Anchor too. But those are the main ways that you make money for sure.
Yeah, I've heard people who are doing in-show advertisements, and it maybe it sounds a little bit more organic or a bit more natural, but it's so
kind of depends. Yeah, you can go either way with it for sure. Yeah.
And from a self-development perspective, because this podcast is all about self-development, how has the podcast made you a better person?
Oh, it's made me way better at speaking for sure. Like, I mean, maybe that wasn't reflective of this interview, but I mean, just in general, I feel a lot more comfortable behind a microphone and kind of like just speaking with people. I mean, yeah, like I look back at my first episode and I was just so awkward and like it was weird. And then, but like later episodes, I was actually like asking like intelligent questions and like I had flow to it. And I was like, well, speaking of that, I'll bring you over here. So you kind of grow into it. It's kind of cool. Yeah. And actually what's kind of funny is because I wasn't necessarily the best public speaker before, also not good behind a mic, but like I've definitely gotten better. And what's funny is that through karaokeing with my buddies, I became a really like way more confident. So what happened was, I used to be like I'm still a terrible singer, but I found out there's like a couple songs that I can sing really well, like raspy rock. And so I would be really nervous to sing, and I hate public speaking. I get my legs shake, I sweat. Even though I'm really good with people, when I get behind a mic, I just like, oh, it's too much. But anyways,
can you give us a demo?
Not today, not today, sir. I don't have any. I have tequila over there, but I don't think I'm gonna be drinking that this early. But yeah, what's funny is I got like, one day I was like, I moved to OKC and I was like, screw it. I just got behind the mic and started singing, and I got like people buying me drinks and stuff, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool, like whatever. And I did it so much, but I was always around my buddies, and then this last weekend, like COVID friendly, we have like the mic condom and everyone has a mask on, but like I karaoke'd on a date. I was just by myself, no friends to support me. I just went up there and just sang my own song. And I was just like, I would have never done this like 6 months ago. And so I'm curious to see how that is going to transition into me public speaking as an entrepreneur now. And if I can go up there and just be way more confident now that I've like broken, now if I can sing in front of people and I don't know anyone in the room, I think I'll be able to actually public speak better too. So I'm kind of excited to see how that works. But back to the podcast, I think same thing. Like I think just doing it so much and around like different people really has just helped me become a better speaker and just like a better overall communicator, I guess.
Wow. Cool. Thanks for sharing. And
absolutely.
I'm curious to learn a little bit more about your personal life. And off the bat, I'm going to start off with this question. What does the word mindset mean for you?
I suppose I'm wearing the karaoke bar shirt for OKC. Oh, that's funny. It's called Cookies. What does the word mindset mean to me? Is that what you said?
Yeah, but mindset, yeah.
That's a good question. Let's see. Yeah, speaking of being good on podcasts, yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's hard to answer that word.
It's a pretty general, take as much time as you need.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, so for me, like mindset's super, I don't know how I can say what it means, but I can say like how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Which might be the same answer eventually, but we'll see what happens. Mindset's super important. I think like everything from sports to being an executive in a company, mindset plays like 80% of a role. Like if you can walk in confidently and like proud of something into any situation, you can dominate. Like there are times where like I look at it like for example, my brother's really good at basketball and I'm not as good. And when we play a pickup game with like, and I'm guarding someone else, I don't do that well. But if I'm guarding my brother, he's my brother, and I win almost every time because I refuse to lose my brother. But then it's like, if he's better than everyone else on the court, and then those people are beating me, why? And it's literally my mindset. It's just me going like, I will not lose to my brother, but then I'll let this random dude just kick my ass. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I think mindset in life is just so crazy, and I'm always in my own head and I try and get out of it. But like, I think it's really important to kind of just like take a step back and like look at where you're at. So there's times where I get really unconfident about my app, and I'm like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? But it's like, you know what? One trainer call where the trainer's like, this is the coolest thing ever. They start paying for it. Will just literally flip my entire mindset on the company. So it's like a matter of constantly taking a step back and going like, here's what we've built. It's awesome. Stay confident. And then like, no matter what happens, kind of moving forward. So I don't really have an answer for your question, but I just think mindset is very important for a startup founder. Just because it can literally, if you don't have a good mindset, it can literally destroy your company. And there's things constantly, there's investors, there's bugs, there's glitches, there's terrible phone calls. Like there's things all day that are going to be happening to you. And if you don't have a positive mindset, your company will fail. So it's just important, basically, is my point.
Right. And you've got a background in fitness, and I'm just more curious to touch on that. What's the what's the typical diet look like for yourself?
Yeah, so I actually I don't really have too much of a diet per se. I can say what I eat now, but I finally counted macros for the first time last spring, and I lost about 20 pounds. Okay. So I went from like 218 to 197 or something like that, along with cardio. And it was just like, it really wasn't that hard to count macros after like the first week or two. So it was kind of cool to do that. But I mean, my typical diet, I work out like pretty much every day, or like 5-6 days a week. I'll run once a week, twice a week, and then I'll sprint a mile in the morning before my workouts typically. Yeah, I mean, I wake up, I'll have like a Greek yogurt and a granola bar and a lot of water. And then I'll have like a breakfast burritos, like eggs, rice, cheese, that kind of stuff with some tortillas. I'll have like a little salad and an apple later. And then I'll probably have like chicken and vegetables for dinner. So I mean, and then like throw in a bunch of like little snack, like chewy bars and that kind of stuff throughout the day. But I mean, pretty straightforward. I feel like I have a pretty good diet, like nothing, I don't eat like junk food per se.
Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you indulge in desserts?
I have a sweet tooth for sure, which is why I do not own desserts. I don't buy cookies. I don't buy ice cream. I don't buy any of that shit because I will, like, for example, I bought like these little fruit cups yesterday, like four, like the really good tasting, like, all the little fruit in them. And I ate all four of them. Yet after I bought them yesterday, I just ate all of them. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to keep eating them. And so I don't have any today because I ate them all yesterday. So I have a really hard time restraining myself from eating cookies and desserts and that kind of stuff. So I just don't buy it. Even when I buy ice cream for the night, I'll eat the whole thing. So I just can't if I want desserts, I have to go get them. Otherwise I just don't touch them. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing in moderation. It's just 100%. It's just, yeah.
Can't do it, man. Can't do
it. All right. And I want to touch on your workouts because I'm curious about that as well. You seem like you've got a pattern dialed in there. It's just maybe through years of experimenting and things like that. So
yeah, absolutely. And it definitely helped going through the it definitely helped going through the app and having all these amazing workouts through these personal trainers. So like I've always liked learning new workouts. But pretty much for me, one thing I realized last year was that like I wasn't doing enough cardio. And I don't have a lot of time in my day because my schedule is always pretty much booked out, or I have some activity I have to do for the app. So I try and squeeze as much cardio in as I can at the gym. So and I also got really into jogging last year too. I ran my first marathon during COVID just by myself. I ran 26.2 miles, almost broke as a person, but I finished it. And so, yeah, I run once or twice a week. I do about 5-mile runs once or twice a week. If my gym had a pool, I need to get another gym here. I'll get another membership soon. I like to swim once a week too. It's just like, it's literally the best possible workout you can do. And then I typically do about 4 or 5 days of weightlifting. So, upper body push day, AKA like bench, triceps, that kind of stuff, shoulders, upper body pull day. So back, so pull-ups, bicep curls, rows, that kind of stuff. And then a leg day. And then I'll do like 2 more days of some kind of variation of those 2 things. But yeah, so the way I sneak in my cardio though is I do like, I'll literally get on the treadmill and just force myself to sprint for a mile. And then that's how I start my workouts every day now. So it definitely helps get the heart rate up, get a sweat going, and get all those calories burnt out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever feel bored with your workouts? Like, how do you, do you, do you have
100%.
like, yeah.
100%. And that's the problem too, is that like, right now I'm very bored with my workout. And so I'm forcing myself to go to the gym. That's actually why we launched the app in the first place. Our original app was because I was so bored in the gym. Sometimes I'd be Googling workouts and like, it was just crazy to me. And so I really do think if we had done the app better and more like effectively, it would have blown up. But maybe the 50 workout app idea would have been better. But yeah, I get bored all the time. So that's why it's nice to have the app, even though it's about to be deleted off the app store. I still have the workouts on there. So it's nice to be able to find a workout and just like do it for the week or like do it for the month. But no, if you're bored at the gym, following a routine is super important. Otherwise you can go crazy. You can fall out of it. Like you can just not be interested anymore. So it's very crucial to either find a trainer through WeStrive, and they can give you a custom program that you can follow, or, just figure out another way. Like, honestly, like there's other ways to get programs, and just make sure you're sticking to something and, always evolving.
There you go, guys. If you are looking for a trainer, WeStrive's got you does WeStrive, is it international or is it only it's international? So I'm in Australia. So if I want to,
awesome,
I can jump on there and get started, and awesome.
Yep. Right. So we have a bunch of personal trainers in Australia. We currently are expanding on the payment side of that. So your trainer couldn't charge you through that, but like, they have other ways. They have Venmo, PayPal, whatever. So, but yeah, we have a bunch of Australia trainers on the app though too. So yeah.
Cool to hear. And I've got this question. What's the craziest and most outlandish thing you have ever done in your life?
In general, or like with
in general? I'm happy to. This is more of a story. I'm happy you to take the floor and just.
I'll start with the app, and I'll try and think of some crazy. I'm not like a dare. I'll definitely do some crazy shit, but it's always like not stuff that I would die from. You know what I mean? Like I would never be like, let's.
Yeah, we're not endorsing. Yeah, we're not endorsing any crazy behavior like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the craziest thing with the app actually was about 3-4 years ago now. Before I moved to LA, I was living up in Washington State, which is 2 states up, top left of the U.S. This investor said he was going to put in $250,000 into my app. So I was like, cool. And I flew down to LA to meet with this guy. Put all my money into I was broke as hell back then. Put all my money into the ticket, stayed with a buddy for a week, and the investor just literally ghosted me. So he just I had the contracts, like I was like walking around like an idiot, like with my little contracts, like trying to meet this guy, and he just no showed our meeting and just never talked to me again. And I was like, okay. So that definitely happened. That was pretty fun. And then in life, I mean, I don't know, like I'm scared of heights. I've done like cliff jumping and bungee jumping before, which was like insane to me, but like I haven't done any like just crazy, you know what I mean? Like I'm very much like this. Like I've moved 4 times this year to 4 different states. I was in Washington, in California, in Oklahoma. Now I'm in Texas. So I mean, I'm very much like, let's do it, But yeah, I don't do like crazy stuff though per se, because I value my life and my friends and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so yeah,
absolutely. And is that because of the lockdown, or is that just personal circumstances, or?
It was locked. So my ex and I broke up in LA when we were living, and she wanted to take over the lease, and COVID had just started. So I was like, well, I don't want to pay for LA rent anyways. This is perfect. So I moved back home to Washington, live with the family / like my grandparents have some lake cabins. So I did that. I work remote anyway. So it was perfect. It was honestly like an amazing 6 months there. Moved to Oklahoma City. I got into a program with the Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team. It was like the startup program for 4 months. And as soon as that ended, Austin, Texas has an awesome startup ecosystem. So I moved here. So yeah, kind of just popping around all over the place.
All over the place. Yeah. All right. But because just touching on that startup culture, because I don't know, I think Australia is kind of following suit with America now. And
is it? Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. But I'm still a bit unaware about that startup What that startup live? Like what is the startup live?
I was gonna say you guys have Shark Tank Australia, so I've watched those episodes.
We do, yeah,
Yeah. It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so I mean, it's because I was in LA and there's like a startup scene there, but not really. Like I actually ended up starting my own networking group out there. We were getting about 100 people plus per event for founders, and it was so cool. And then COVID hit, and I had this like 200 person event planned in Marina Del Rey, and I was so pumped. And then it just like shut down because of that. So that was really irritating. Yeah, the startup LA is just way too spread out. So like you can try and create a startup scene all you want, but it takes an hour to get anywhere across town. So it's like you can't really ever build a solid ecosystem in that sense. Like people have tried, there's like little communities here and there, but like it's just, I don't know. I always felt very distant from the scene, even though I was basically like building part of it. And then in Austin, I just got here during COVID, so I can't really speak to it, but there's definitely some amazing investment groups, accelerators, and different VCs out here. And I know that like post COVID, I'll personally be hosting tons of events and getting people involved, but I think they also host their own events and get people in that kind of scene going. But there's tons of like networking, especially digitally right now. And there's a lot of really cool people out here. So that's kind of why I wanted to move out. But it's not the typical like San Francisco living in a closet scene. I would never do that. I'd rather just live in a city that I could pay good rent for, have a room and a roof over my head. And then, have like open spaces to network and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. And how can people connect with you? I'm going to give you the floor. Yeah. Anything
Absolutely,
you're promoting at the moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm Cory McKane. My Instagram is just at Cory.mf. So you can just send me a DM if you want. I'm happy to reply to anyone. This is the quickest way to get a hold of me. And if you have any questions about startups, anything like that, happy to talk. And then I run We Strive as this whole, if you don't know that by now, it's kind of weird.
We've been talking about it for the past.
Like, oh, good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just WeStriveApp.com, or, you can DM me about it, or we're at WeStriveApp on the Instagram. But if you're a personal trainer, or have a personal trainer, you will not find a better platform to run your business or to train with your trainer on. So there we go.
Awesome. On that note, we'll wrap up the podcast there. It's been awesome speaking with you. And
absolutely, man.
Enjoy, guys. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.
Boom. There you go.